I want to welcome all of our guests today to Habitat's final town hall conversation of 2021. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Heather Lafferty, and I am the CEO with Habitat for Humanity of Metro Denver. And we've got a couple quick logistical issues. Everyone is on mute by the powers of technology, so you don't have to worry about that. But we will be looking for some questions from the audience. So if you do have questions that you'd like to submit to our panelists, please don't hesitate to put those in chat to the questions little line in there. And that will allow us to have a chance to get to your questions in just a few minutes. After we have a chance to introduce our fabulous panelists and to dive into this conversation. Hopefully, or maybe not, you will just see the panelists, myself and our three guests today. And so hopefully you don't have to scroll through a bunch of little boxes, but please feel free. Anybody who would like to be on video, we'd love to see your faces as well. So I see my panelists joining me on the screen, which is wonderful. So great to get started. It has just been a heck of a year, hasn't it? We are excited to be able to share that 2021, while it has been an unusual year, continuing off of a challenging 2020, has been a great year for Habitat and for the families that we are able to serve. More than 230 households have been served by Habitat in this calendar year, or over the last year, I should say. And that is a wonderful number of people who we know will be able to spend the upcoming year-end and holidays in a warm, safe, wonderful home. So thank you to all of you who are joining us today who helped to make that possible. Today, we really want to focus our conversation on the transformational impact of having a stable, decent, and affordable home, and what that means, not just for a family today, as we think back, over the 200 plus families that we were able to serve this year, obviously immediate impacts today. But we also know that this has a generational impact on children and grandchildren who are impacted by their parents and grandparents having a good, stable home as well. And so that is what the topic of this conversation will be. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce you to Naiely Miranda, Arthur Padilla, and Ayanle, who are three amazing people who have all connected with Habitat in different ways and have continued to be advocates for this work. So I'm not going to take their stories from their mouths, so I'm going to look to all of you, to the three of them, to introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves before we dive into some questions. So Naiely, can I start with you? Would you please just introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Naiely Miranda. I have been, my mom received a Habitat home when I was in high school. So she has been an owner of that home for the last 12 years. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more in this next hour, but really that Habitat home was really the pivotal changing point within my life that really started really the rest of my life into a better path per se. I currently am a senior loan originator for a mortgage company here in Colorado. So I do get to see every day just the need for affordable housing when I do have clients who unfortunately do not qualify with the cost of living here in the state of Colorado. I was able to pursue my undergraduate degree from Metro and my master's degree from DU in human resources. And I also own a HR consulting business where I help small businesses with their HR needs.
Oh, Naiely, we have so much to talk about. Thank you. And I appreciate that you found some time to join us today and to be able to share your story. Ayanle, you go next.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ayanle Nur. I'm a junior at Yale University. My parents have been Habitat owners for 7 years now. And so Habitat has definitely played an important part in me finding stability in a home and being able to focus on my education. And so, yeah, glad to be here.
And thank you, Ayanle, for joining us between classes. I know that you are, as a pre-med neuroscience student, you've got a lot going on and just finishing your midterm. So thank you for making this work in your very busy schedule. And Arthur, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Arthur Padilla. My grandmother actually owned a Habitat home, so I'm an example of like a third generation, if you will. And yeah, it's had a great impact on all of us in my family. I graduated from CU Boulder with a business degree and got a master's in finance, and I work at a risk advisory firm now. And yeah, just excited to talk through these topics with you guys. And Habitat does good work. So
thank you. And I just need to brag a little bit. Arthur interned with Habitat. We were saying, what, 3 years ago, sometime pre-COVID. It's getting fuzzy, but and so continuing to give back, not just to the broader community, but to Habitat. So it's we miss you, Arthur. We'd love to have you in the office more, but good to see you today. So you all kind of touched on a little bit of, the connection to Habitat through your parents and grandparents. And I would, and Naiely, you said, we'll talk about this a little bit more, like why your mom being able to purchase her Habitat home was such a pivotal point for you. Do you mind just diving in and starting to tell a little bit more, as a high school student, what that meant to you? And you certainly have done amazing things since then. So we'd love to have you share a bit more.
Yeah, of course. I think, most of us, our panelists or all of us can relate to the need for having that stability of housing within our lives. And for me, we were just always moving around growing up. I mean, I remember one year we moved to the apartment complex literally across the street from where we were living because they were having like a move-in special and we needed to find a, cheaper rent, whether it was $50 or $100 or, didn't have to pay rent for a month. My mom was always trying to figure out a way to get us into a decent home, but also making sure that we had enough money to live. So my mom's a single mom. And I would say the greatest thing my mom taught me is that, if you set your mind to anything, like you will accomplish it. And so she would always tell me these things, but in my mind, she would say these things and I'd kind of like prove it. Like you're telling me that I can do whatever I want, but yet we're struggling with housing. We're struggling with paying rent, paying groceries, whatever it may be. And so I think that for me was very challenging because it was kind of like, if you're telling me that I could accomplish everything, but where's this example? How will I really reach to what I want to accomplish? And so when we were in high school, I was definitely not on the right path. I had terrible grades. There was a point in high school where I had like a 1.5 GPA because I was essentially just failing out. I had decided to get a job and that way I could start at least supporting myself and just helping my mom. So that was a big factor for me in high school. And then out of nowhere, my mom's like, we're getting a house. And I'm like, well, like, what do you mean? How are we just magically going to have a house? And so she was telling me about Habitat and about their sweat equity program and how she qualified. And so she was able to accomplish that for us. And that was really the turning point in my life where I saw, if my mom can accomplish this with not speaking English, being an immigrant, having a minimum wage job, and now we're going to have a house, like there are so many more opportunities for me as an English speaker, as a US citizen that I could then accomplish. So at that point, I really decided to turn my college career around. I ended up graduating with a full ride to multiple universities here in Colorado. And I decided to go to Metro just because it was closer to home. And my mom was having some health issues and was able to get an education there. And then from there, just kind of keep going with my master's. And, doors just kept continuing to open because I, at that point, really believe, and to this day believe that, you can really accomplish what you set your mind to if you dream big enough. And so I really thank my mom for that. But I also thank Habitat for that because they always say Habitat isn't a hand out, it's a hand up. And so I feel like that's really, what happened. My mom didn't receive this handout. She still had to pay a mortgage and, cover some closing costs and things like that. But it really just set us and myself in the right path for success.
Well said, Naiely. And your mom is an amazing woman. I know she was going through many health issues right around when she was doing her sweat equity. And I remember standing on your front porch and with her and you and just the pride that she had and that you had in her. So it's amazing to hear you continue to talk about that. You shared a little bit about, what you're doing now professionally. And I think it's amazing what, that you're now in mortgage lending. I'm curious, not that if there's no connection, that's fine, but I'm curious, you're now working with homeowners or people who are, aiming to be homeowners. How does that feel for you?
It's honestly very rewarding, just in the sense of, a lot of them, most of my clients are Spanish speakers, individuals, some of them who just don't speak English, immigrants. I work with a lot of individuals, people of color, of all sorts. And so it's very interesting to see, so many of them really do have this dream of owning a home, the American dream here in the US. And a lot of them never thought it was possible, especially for like my Spanish speakers, because they didn't have someone who can really help guide them through the process, or just that uneducation or the fear of starting the process. So I would say my favorite part of my job is, helping someone who I would say is probably a first-time home buyer who this is the first time they're getting into a home. They didn't know that there was programs out there that can help them get into homes that cover their down payment. So really just helping them and guiding them through the process is definitely very rewarding. I would say with the rewarding side comes the sad side, I guess is the best word that I could come to, where, we have so many people here in the state of Colorado that want to purchase a home, but unfortunately their income just cannot support what the cost of living is. And so we see like siblings, sons and daughters helping their parents, it's full families who now need to come into these loans in order to be able to afford a house here in Colorado. And so I think too, I'm very thankful that when my mom got her home, she was able to accomplish that on her own, because to be 20, 21 years old and having to sign on a mortgage with your parents in order to be able to buy a house is pretty ridiculous, considering that, we are a thriving state, we're a thriving country, but yet people cannot have the resources for affordable housing.
Well said, Naiely. Yeah, well, I appreciate that you bring the perspective of you and your mom to your customers and clients, and obviously a great advocate for housing in our community. We're gonna have to get you on our advocacy committee, by the way. We'll circle back on that after this, but
Sounds
great. Good. Well, Naiely, we'll come back to you, but Ayanle, I'd love to hear more about you. You talked about being a junior at Yale. That is no small feat, and I am so excited for you and to have watched what you have accomplished and what your family is accomplishing. So do you mind just expanding a little bit more on your story, and is there any connection between your house and where you're at today?
Yeah, definitely. So before Habitat, my mom worked several jobs just to support me. For a while, she was a single parent, and so that was definitely like no easy task. And now I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and so like the family has like gradually expanded over time. And so like that burden has fell a lot on her and my stepfather. And so that burden has caused us to be like very like financially unstable. And so like growing up, I moved from home to home, and as a result, school to school. So before coming to Yale, I attended 8 different schools, and I've lost track of how many homes I've been in because I've just been in so many different places. For me, before Habitat, home was more of like a hotel. I never knew when I was gonna go to the next home, and so Habitat really gave me the stability to like focus and do what I needed to do in school. And so, it was very hard for me like before Habitat to find a sense of belonging because every school was temporary. And so I wasn't able to really adjust or do what I needed to do or be able to even get involved in like school activities for too long. And so once I was in a Habitat home, I was able to really settle down and just like find my passions like in school and like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study. And that made me realize that like I wanted to attend a top university. And so I worked really hard in high school. I like on my SATs, like I only missed like one question on my math section. I'd spend like every day after school with my teacher trying to do practice problems, trying to do whatever I could. I spent countless hours on applications, applied for several scholarships, and was fortunate enough to get a full ride. And so that was something that was very important for me because I knew my family could not afford college. And so it was something that like money has always just been a problem, something that like I've always had to worry about. But just being able to focus and be able to stay in one place allowed me to like figure things out. And so yeah, now I have a full ride. I haven't had to worry about I haven't had to ask my family for any money, which has been great. And so it's been something that I've been really grateful for because of Habitat. And so, yeah, like coming into Yale, I was able to get a lot of support financially because of that. And so I've been able to focus on classes. I've been able to, apply to my major and get accepted into the neuroscience major. I've been able to, find funding to do research over the summer in a neuroscience lab at the med school here. And I've just been able to, really take advantage of the opportunities at the school and just be able to do things I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do. So I'm really just grateful for Habitat for giving me a home. And so, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. One thing I just want to say, we did not give you a home. Your parents worked incredibly hard to be able to purchase their home. And obviously their hard work runs in the family because you are clearly a hard worker as well. So how are your brothers and sisters doing? You are setting a pretty high bar for them, Ayanle, in terms of what to do next. So what are they up to these days?
Yeah, so they've been doing pretty good. They're actually attending the middle school that like feeds into the high school that I went to. So they go to DSST, Green Valley Ranch. And so they've been doing pretty well in classes. I'm proud of them and all the work that they've been doing. And also, yeah, my sister's still in elementary school, but they'll be joining my brother soon. They've been doing great.
Oh, good. And how's your mom? She's one of my favorite people. I'll never forget your home dedication.
No, she's doing great. She's been busy, obviously. She doesn't have me around, like helping. So definitely been an adjustment. But my dad's been like stepping up and like helping out in the house more. Things have been a lot better.
So do you think your brothers and sisters watching you achieve what you are achieving and on the path to continue to achieve, what do you think the expectations are for them? Do you think they'll go to college and try to beat you in everything? I don't know if there's sibling rivalry in your family at all, but what do you see as their future?
No, I think they definitely like have the motivation. And so I do believe that they will do whatever they want to do in life. And I know for a lot of them, it's probably going to be college. I know they already talk about like applying to the same schools I did. They always ask me questions about like, oh, what activities did you do? And stuff like that. So like, I know they're definitely interested. I'm confident that they can do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ayanle. Okay, well, Arthur, we want to hear from you as well. Your grandmother was the 9th Habitat homeowner here in the Metro Denver area, and she was an incredible woman. And glad to know that your family now, as her grandchild, is just doing so many amazing things. So your mom, Anne, grew up in a Habitat home, and I understand you lived there for a period of time as well when you were much younger. So tell us a little bit, about your experience, connection to Habitat. I don't want you to feel like you have to speak for your mom, but anything you've heard her say in terms of the impact for her, and then what that means for you and your brother and sister.
Yeah, of course. So Naiely, you're story kind of sounds a lot similar to my mom's. So she, she wasn't doing very well in school, and she ended up with the full ride. And she put a lot of that on the stability that Habitat gave their family. She grew up with 5 siblings, so it was a full house, a lot to manage. But I am 3rd generation, so I am a little bit removed, but I can talk about what it does look like further down the family tree. Growing up in poverty can really be a trap in some ways. It's very hard to get out of. A lot of people say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which you physically can't do if you know anything about bootstraps. But, it does give the stability to be able to think and, worry about other things and trying to survive for the next day. You're worrying about where your next meal is coming from, rent, all this stuff. You don't have time to think about your dreams or, your aspirations or anything like that. And then just think about that, further down the line in terms of like generations. If your parents were able to, explore a little bit more and, get an education, teach you some things that, maybe their parents couldn't, then, what can I do like for my, family moving forward? And, it's not just the family that's living in the home. It's really, years down the line. And my grandmother had, I lost count, but like 30 grandchildren. So, it's a lot of kids that, were impacted by that single home. So, I don't know. I just like people to think that it's not just the family, it's a lot of people involved that aren't even here yet.
Yeah, well said. 30 grandkids. That's a cool. I saw one of your family photos one time. I think of all, and you have such a beautiful family. And I know many, in addition to your success, many of your cousins are doing, amazing things and wonderful things. So yeah, that really has an impact. I once heard your mom say that, she talked about when it was when she was, high school, I guess, thinking about college, it was a big deal that she was thinking about college and that her mom hadn't gone to college, but that it was how could we make this possible for her to go to college? And should she go to college? And that was kind of the conversation. And then she shared with me that when you were that age, the conversation wasn't around should you go to college? It was simply, which college were you going to choose? Do you feel that impact? I mean, that kind of change in generation, and as you so well said, talked about the trap of poverty. How does that feel today for you?
Well, it's like you could write a book about it. It's a story. My grandmother and my grandfather both didn't have a high school education. My grandfather was illiterate, and the ability for our family to jump from that to a college education into the choosing which college you want to go to, not even college but like university, is it's huge, and it really does set you free and open up your horizons to a whole world that you maybe wouldn't even thought about before. Like I said, it is a trap in a way. You're worrying about the basics, and the world has so much to offer, and it's great just to give people the opportunity to explore that. And that's what I think Habitat really does for families. It just allows them to enjoy what life has to offer.
Yeah, and you talked about when you're in that trap that you don't have time to think about your dreams. I'd love to hear from all of you because you're just incredible people. What are some of your dreams? Arthur, let's start with you since you teed that up very well. What are you dreaming about today? What does your future look like that you can share?
Well, I love business and finance. So my lifelong dream will probably be to open up some type of shop to teach financial literacy to people in poorer counties, maybe in the state of Colorado, hopefully nationwide one day. That would be my ultimate dream. But if not, it would be cool to be like a developer and build large buildings.
Wow. What about doing both?
You could do both. There's a lot of time.
Yeah. says someone who is much younger than me. That's great. I love that. Well, I know you spent some time working with our real estate team, so maybe we can find ways to both develop together, and then you can do that financial literacy. That's amazing, because that really is the, at the core. It's like having the stability within a home, but then also having those resources to gain skills. And I love that you love business. That's great. Your firm is lucky to have you.
Yes, they
Tell
are.
us a little bit about what a risk management firm does. So in case somebody is in the market to hire one, you can do a little promo here.
So I personally do debt management for large real estate companies. We basically make sure they don't go broke and that they're in the right situations. There's a lot of math involved, a lot of loan documents, the legal stuff that we have to, sparse through. But, we just try to make sure their bottom line is okay.
Good. Well, I know we've got one of our board members, Mike Coyle, on the phone, and that sounds a lot like his business. So we'll have to connect you. Ayanle, tell us about your dreams. Where are you headed?
So I'm pre-med and also studying neuroscience. I want to be able to combine those interests and become a doctor of some sort. I definitely thought about like neurosurgery as a possible like field that I go into, but not entirely sure exactly what I want to do or anything. But I definitely am interested in like neurological diseases. So like Alzheimer's disease, for example, is something that's like impacted my family directly. And it's something I've always like wanted to be able to do something about. It's the reason why I'm interested in the brain. It's the reason why like I want to become a doctor. And so I definitely want to be able to do something in that capacity in my future. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Ayanle, as you're getting into the healthcare field, thinking about, even just from what you know now, what would be the biggest thing that you would want to change in order to promote health and especially access to health in our community?
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry, whatever comes to mind.
No, yeah, I think there's just a lot of inequities due to like just the access for like different financial barriers as well. I think like people not having access to like insurance or just not having like access to a nearby hospital, for example. There's, I think, just a lot of barriers in different like areas that like cause like families to not like want to go to a hospital, like maybe not like, or like even like the fear of like a large bill, for example, might like just want them to like detract from that. And so like there's a lot of barriers, a lot caused by like economic reasons. And so I definitely want to be able to like support those who even may not be able to pay for a lot of those expenses.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful dream, and one that I think we need to talk more about as a society, because especially when you look at the history of housing and housing policy in the United States and specific to redlining and how, segregating neighborhoods, segregating communities, especially our BIPOC communities, and keeping them away from good healthcare, good education, good access to food, and then the disparities, as you talked about, that has today, and how critical housing is to that and the impact on health. So, and then we're in, still in a global pandemic, and we have seen the impact that COVID has had on neighborhoods who have historically been marginalized. And that continues to hurt people who are working hard and doing all the right things and certainly deserve a lot better. So we're behind you. Go get that work done. Thank you. Naiely, how about for you? What are your dreams?
I would say the one that's probably the one that I've been focusing the most on right now is that we're actually looking to buy a house in the next few months. Yeah, so I'm really excited. We've been looking at some, but haven't found the one yet. But I think for me, that is probably I just can't even imagine, because I just remember the day that we had our dedication ceremony for our Habitat home, and to think that like now I'm getting ready to be a homeowner is like so crazy to me. And then, so I mean, I would say that's probably my biggest focus right now. I would say it's funny that you mentioned like with dreams, and because at the end of the year is coming, and I did my first vision board, which I'd never done before, but they were like, you should do it, like really outline what you want to accomplish this year. And I've really been looking at it and just what I had set for myself as goals for the year, and I'm about to hit all of them. And so I will end the year as a top producer with my company. And I hope to continue that more. I really want to continue to grow a team. I hired an assistant this year, and she's been amazing to get my life in order. But just continuing to grow, like to bring in more loan originators who are bilingual. Not doesn't have to be Spanish, but there's just all these untapped communities who don't have the education or the support. And so that is what I'm really focusing on. So we're hoping on growing our team even more. And then just continuing to grow my HR consulting business. That's probably the job that I enjoy doing the most, because I love HR. So just really getting that up and running to figure that out.
That's wonderful. Well, and I appreciate who you're serving, in your mortgage and as being a loan officer. The community that you spoke of is often the community that we're working with as well. And so I know you are giving lots of hope and opportunity to so many people. And congratulations on looking for, to buy your first home. That is always something that we celebrate when folks like you who are doing such wonderful things. But this is a hard market. How is it going trying to find a house in your, that you can afford, that in a community that you want? What does that feel like right now?
Oh my God, it's so horrible. It's like, it's I see a house and I can't even like get excited. Like I'll be like in my, on the inside, I'm like, I love this house. I'm going to live here. This is my home. And then on the outside, I'm like, yeah, we should, go look at it. Let's just not get excited. Let's just see. And then, photos can be very deceiving with how a home will look. My boyfriend laughs because I fell in love with this house that's like a dump. But I love it so much, and it just needs a lot of work. But it's just really tough. And so I just think of people who, one, are already discouraged because of financial reasons. Two, then they have the language issue. And then three, they're going to look at all these homes that they continue to lose out on. And so, I mean, I've had clients, so there was one client who put 57 offers on a house before she was able to find her home. It took almost a year. And this year with homes, it was crazy. She ended up putting in an offer on a house. This house alone had close to 90 offers in one weekend.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
Yeah. So I'm kind of just taking it as like don't get too excited. We're starting early. Our lease isn't up until the end of March. So we're just kind of, if we see something that we like now, we're just gonna go after it, because who knows when the next one will be. But it definitely has been really difficult. And I think we're very fortunate where, I have a good job. My partner has a really good job. So we are in a very great situation to be in when we're purchasing a home. And I think to people who have pre-approvals that I've given them that are like hundreds of thousands of dollars less than what ours is. And I'm like, if we can't even find a house, how are these people, going to do it?
Yeah, no, it's really, I was just looking up some stats that we shared just recently, specific to Aurora, just as one example. In November. So basically, 3 years ago in 2018, there were 280 homes on the market, so listed in Aurora, that were under 300,000. And basically right now, so November 1st, 3 years later, there are 50 homes on the market under 300,000. And so that just like completely illustrates the fact that, and my guess is those are not the most beautiful homes and the easiest homes that you can just move into and not have to put more work into. And so, yeah, that's an 82% decrease in what's available in that price point. And so it's becoming harder and harder for people to go from renting to ownership with those price points, or with that inventory dropping and the price points going up. Ayanle and Arthur. Oh, I'm sorry, Naiely.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna add one thing. I was gonna say something that people don't really think about when they think of buying a house is you have your approval, but aside from that, you also kind of need to have money to play. And so most of the most individuals are, first-time home buyers. They're using programs for down payment assistance. They've been saving everything that they possibly can for closing costs because sometimes those aren't covered with the program. But yet, when they're going to put in offers on houses, there's people putting in offers that are $50, $100, $120,000 more than what the home is worth. And not only that, they're putting something that's called appraisal gap. So that way, if the home doesn't appraise, the individuals are saying, the home doesn't appraise, but it's okay. I'm going to put my own $20,000 to cover it. And you have individuals who are barely, making ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, wanting to buy a home. They've barely saved enough money for closing costs. And then you have to say, well, you're losing all the offers because you have other individuals who maybe aren't first-time home buyers or, have just more savings that they're able to actually bet more on the housing market. So it's not always just about the approval and getting approved. It's, they're then held back again by not having the liquid assets in order to play the game.
Yeah. And again, if you're especially if you're a first generation home buyer, and you don't have that support, like you talked about, families coming together to try to buy these homes, it's even more challenging. Well, let me just quickly remind our audience, if any of you have questions, please go ahead and put them in chat. I am going to ask Arthur, Ayanle, any interest in becoming a homeowner someday? Is that part of your future, do you imagine?
Of course. Hopefully in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Call me.
Definitely will. Yeah, same here.
You got a few steps, Ayanle. You're probably getting out of school is a good first step.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely.
That's great, but it is more and more challenging, and you're right, Naiely. I think that you are obviously an expert in how challenging this is, and at Habitat we're seeing more and more people who have said, hey, I always thought I'd be able to afford a home, but I've got a good job, and but in the state of Colorado you need to earn over $100,000 annually to be able to afford the average home. And that is not something that, a lot of people in your generation, coming out of college, sometimes with debt, that's able to achieve. And so that really, truly is having an impact. And you guys have done a great job of being able to talk to the benefit of having your parents and your grandparents being able to own a home, and that's why Habitat's program has been so important. So let's actually talk about your parents for just a moment, and what you all are seeing them do, and how this has had an impact on them and their ability to achieve their dreams. So anybody who wants to go first, you guys dive in.
I guess I can go. So, like I said before, my mom had the opportunity to go to college, which was good. And she was always like, I feel like the house that they worked for through Habitat, they allowed her to be able to teach us the lessons that we needed to be successful. And she has always taught us about stability. Like, she has always wanted us to stay we may have moved around a little bit, but she wanted us to stay in the same schools. She wanted us to have stable relationships with, family members and friends. And she really understood how valuable that was. And so, she passed that down to us. And even with herself, she was always consistent. She always worked hard. And she's like I should know this, but I think she's the director of the diversion office in Denver. So, like she took those lessons, passed them down, and she lives through that every day. And she's a very hard worker, and she's amazing. I love her.
Yeah. Oh. She's very proud of you too. So good mutual. How about for you, Naiely?
We touched about this a little bit earlier about my mom not having the best health. So when we were in the process of getting our Habitat home, my mom actually had to go and do heart surgery to have 2 of her valves replaced. And so I remember when she was, healing, she would say, she was like, I have to make sure that I complete my sweat equity hours. And I'm like, Mom, you can't even walk to the bathroom, and so it was so amazing to see her, after making a recovery, to be swinging a hammer and doing all these things. And unfortunately, since then, my mom's health has deteriorated significantly. And when I was in college, she just couldn't work anymore. And so we were very fortunate that she was able to get on SSI disability. But for anyone who knows what disability looks like, it's a very, very small amount of money that you receive. And so tying it to Habitat, I would say, for me, it's just been this huge peace of mind as, she continues to be less and less active and less able to do, her day-to-day activities. The fact that she has a home, she has a stable place to live. It is at a fixed, or no interest rate, I guess, it's a fixed payment every month. Her disability income can only go so far. So I do end up having to, she's retired, you're disabled, whatever. I just wouldn't frame it as retired. I do have to step up and help support her financially. And so it is not only a financial aid to have that set mortgage amount every month for her, but it is also for me because, I can then budget accordingly to what I need to help her with. But yeah, that's, I think, now looking back as I'm older, I'm just so thankful that she has a home, and, that home has built a significant amount of equity, especially in this market. And, she always says, I know I wasn't able to give you the nicest things growing up. I know I couldn't afford to pay for your college, but what I will do and what I will give you is I will leave you this house for you. And so it's her legacy. Her Habitat house is her legacy.
That's beautiful, Naiely. Really beautiful. That is a dream that I think as parents, we all want to be able to know that our kids have a strong foundation, and she's obviously worked really hard to give that to you and throughout your life. So that's beautiful. Thank you. Ayanle, we talked a little bit about mom still working hard, your stepdad helping out. What do you see this house? How is the house that they are living in and that they own? How does that impact their dreams?
Yeah. So for my dad, he likes to drive. So growing up, he's a taxi driver. But nowadays, he started his own business. And so he does his independent driving. So he goes from the airport all the way up to the mountains. So especially during ski season, he's very, very busy. But he's been able to kind of just be his own boss, which has been really nice. And so it's been a lot more stable. He's gotten more cars, and he's just been able to expand his business. And then my mom, she's an interpreter. I would often run into her, actually while she was on shift, because she interpreted at hospitals. And so when I was in high school, I interned at Children's Hospital. And so sometimes I'd just be doing some stuff and I'd run into her. So yeah, oftentimes we just grab lunch, or she would just pick me up. And so yeah, she still does some interpreting. But yeah, she also is like, yeah, just like been able to like kind of like start her own business in a sense, with like selling clothes as well. So yeah, she's been able to get that going ever since like we like got into a Habitat home. So I think they're just doing a lot better. And so it's been a lot more stable. Also not having to worry about me like with college. I think that was something like they had like started to worry about, but hadn't really said anything. And so like they were like starting to like save up money, and then like they realized I was like set. And so I think that was a big relief for them. And so yeah, now they're just like focusing on the rest of the kids, making sure that they have what they need. And so a lot more stable.
Yeah, they gave you a great foundation, and you are an incredible person who's making the most of that. So that's wonderful. Well, we have a question and a comment from one of our audience members. Congratulations to all three of you for your tremendous accomplishments. The question is, what advice or words of wisdom do you have for those who didn't grow up in poverty or haven't experienced poverty, and the importance of what, how they can make an impact in their community?
I guess I can answer this. So there's like a saying in business where it's like you're only as successful as your weakest link. And if you look at, your state, your country, your city, whatever it may be on a macro scale, you would want it to be a successful area where people are thriving, they're exchanging goods, services. That's what you would want, right? So, I just never understood why there's always been a lack of investment in these places. And I think it's important to realize that these people are just as capable as everyone else. They were just dealt a different, set of cards than, maybe someone who was born in a better situation. So I think just realizing that is a good place to start. And, there's tons of things. People need turkeys for Thanksgiving. People need, help with finding homes, with education. There's a lot of areas. So I would just say, find something that you are passionate about, that you would want to help people with, and, go and do that. And I think that's kind of what we're all talking about. I want to teach people financial literacy. We want to help people get healthcare, people find homes, so just find what you're interested in and, find out who's helping them.
Well said, Arthur. Anything to add, Ayanle or Naiely?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like, it all depends on, the first step is asking that question, and not many people even begin doing that, and so it's like Arthur said, finding, what you're passionate about and, really putting yourself out there. Like, I feel that like I feel like the individuals who are in poverty, some of their biggest advocates are those who were not in poverty, because they have a step ahead than that person who can then go and give back. And so I would say use your privilege to help others, because there's not enough privilege in those who have poverty, and that privilege that you have by just not growing up in that or having a different experience, you can then go back and be that privilege for that person.
Well said, Naiely. Yes. Yeah. Wow. You guys, I'm so confident in our future as a society because we have leaders like each of you. Boy, I could listen to you every day. So thinking about the future, and what would you tell kids who are, we just dedicated 32 homes Saturday, this weekend, in central Denver, lots of kids moving into their new homes. What advice would you give the next generation of children who are growing up in a Habitat home?
I would say mine is the same advice my mom gave me, and it's you can accomplish whatever you truly set your mind to.
Yeah, exactly. The world is yours. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, but just believe in yourself. That's the first step, and just be disciplined, and your life will work out the way it's supposed to. It never works out as planned. So
Yeah, pretty similar. Do what you want to do. I think, you're going to be your biggest source of motivation. And so, just believe in yourself, and do what you want to do. And, you might fall a few times, but always get back up and you'll succeed.
Yeah. Boy, you guys. Well, we've got a couple comments coming in. One from some longtime partners, Karen and Ken Pinkham, who said these beautiful young people are sending chills up my spine. And this is why we have been so passionate about Habitat for the last 15 years. Thank you all to the panelists for sharing your story and giving such an inspiration to our partners. And just another a partner of ours, Bob, who is saying thank you for your time and your stories. It seems that besides the immediate security and stability that Habitat Homes provided, it allowed your families to have some time of perspective, to step back and to dream and to have hope. And that is really impactful to hear. So with that, especially that time as family, and you all have beautiful, amazing, strong families, share a little bit about some of your favorite memories, whether it's around the holidays, just because we're getting into that spirit, or if nothing of the holidays comes to mind, another great memory that you have from being in your home, or the impact that home has made, and maybe in your family traditions.
This is something like really small, but my family like always takes like family pictures like on our couch in our living room, and so like being able to like reflect like every year and like see that we're still in the same home is something that it just meant a lot for me, and just being able to see like all my siblings grow, and not have to go through the same struggles that I had to face growing up. It's meant a lot for me, and it's something that has just made me very happy, and just grateful for what I have.
Mm-hmm. That's not insignificant. Thank you, Ayanle. That's beautiful.
I guess one small memory I have from being in the house, like I mentioned, I have like 30 cousins. It's ridiculous. But I just remember having like break dance parties in the living room. And I don't know, that's probably, I know our parents and my grandma would probably be unhappy just to see us having fun and doing that. And I think that's another thing to realize is it's not just the roof over your head, there's memories that happen in those houses. And I don't know, that means a lot at the end of the day.
As the mom of kids who like to break dance, Arthur, that fills me up. I can only imagine. And you did mention your cousins, which is wonderful. What are some of the things they're doing real quickly so that we get a sense for that ripple effect you talked about?
Well, a couple of them have kids now, and everything's healthy. It was, they all have their own homes. They're all stable. I have some cousins in grad school. A few of them graduated from college as well. We're all pretty young still. I don't think anyone's over 30 yet. So, we'll see how our careers and all that develop.
Yeah, well, you're on a great path. Thanks for sharing that memory. Naiely, any memory you want to share or tradition?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so I think like when you grow up in poverty, you kind of don't realize things that you're missing are kind of standards for other people. And so I remember thinking that if you owned a washer and dryer, you were rich. Like you had so much money if you had a washer and dryer in your home. And I remember when we were moving, my mom was like, oh, like, we have to pack. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to pack one box of dirty clothes and one box with my clean clothes. And she's like, well, why aren't you gonna wash your clothes before you go to your house, to the house? And I'm like, well, we're gonna have washer and dryer now. Like I can wash my clothes whenever I want. I can do it while I'm at home. Like, no, I don't want to take all my clothes to the laundromat and then have to spend some time there and have to, work my schedule around that. Like, no, I'm just gonna wait until we have a washer and dryer. And I remember like it was right after we had moved in, because we moved in the day of closing. We moved in on my birthday. And I remember I spent some of my birthday doing laundry whenever I wanted. I did it throughout the night, throughout the day, because I could do it whenever I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, that's powerful. That is really powerful. And going to the question earlier about, for somebody who didn't grow up in poverty or who hasn't experienced that, those are small things that can be, I should say not small things that can be, but they can be taken for granted. Yeah, I'm going to remind my kids of that when it's, that they can do their own laundry any time of day that they want. So, well, let me just thank you, each and every one of you. One of our partners, Rob, said this has been our best town hall yet, inspiring, educational, and generating hope for our collective future. And I couldn't agree more. You all are such a light in this world, and we appreciate your partnership with Habitat. We also appreciate the incredible things that you are doing to make this world and our community a better place. We our hopes and dreams at Habitat, you all are illustrating them. And Arthur, you said it so well when you said, it's more than a roof and walls. It's a place where families can be and create memories and traditions, and can grieve and have challenges, and to age and to have health challenges as well as to celebrate those moments. And so thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and reminding all of us of the importance of this work and why we are giving our time, our partners are giving their time and their money, and why the need for this continues to be so important. Before we sign off, I do just want to share with our audience a little bit about Habitat's impact this year. As I mentioned earlier, almost 230 households have been served over the past year. And some of those are seniors, some of those are in neighborhoods that are experiencing disparities, but their home is a light and is an anchor for their neighborhood. And others who are moving into neighborhoods where, hopefully they have opportunities that they haven't achieved before. We just had a success in a rezoning earlier this week in Aurora, and 20 more families will now be able to live in a beautiful neighborhood there, and is in partnership with a church and the broader community. And so there are so many opportunities that Habitat has in the future, and I just get so excited to think about the adults and the children who have who will change the future, like each of you who are in our future. Got to give one quick plug to our audience. This is, I know, getting into the year end, and a lot of people will be thinking about their year end donations. So 2 quick ways that you can help support Habitat for Humanity, and especially making helping to bring home for the holidays through your donation. So those 2 upcoming things include Colorado Gives Day on December 7th. Many people give through that way. You can also any day, anytime, go on our website and make a donation through habitatmetrodenver.org. And I believe that link just popped into chat. We also are continuing to have volunteers throughout the year. We are always rely on our volunteer support. So thank you all, our panelists again for fitting us into your busy days, our audience for your partnership. I wish each and every one of you a wonderful Thanksgiving, lots to be grateful for, and a healthy and happy year end. Thank you all so much.